All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Masters, CW4 Brian Masters, and I'm the program manager for Dragon Cloud and the cloud efforts inside 18th Airborne Corps. Where's the next slide button? All right, I probably should have done a rehearsal of this. Where's the green button? There we go. All right, work with me, guys. Here we go. All right, so 18th Airborne Corps, approximately 2 years ago, started an effort which really embodies innovation, right? When you're a war fighter, you're doing your daily job in the Army, you're just grinding, you're just getting after it, but you know there's some part of your job that just absolutely sucks, and there's a better way to do it. So that's really kind of the starting point and the kickoff point for the cloud efforts inside 18th Airborne Corps. So over approximately the next half hour, we're going to discuss who is 18th Airborne Corps and why is it important that we have an operational cloud environment. We're going to talk about data-centric warfare and how we're leveraging data for a strategic asset. After that, we're going to talk about Dragon Cloud. So Dragon Cloud is the environment that was built inside 18th Airborne Corps, started from the warfighters inside 101st Airborne Division. After that, we're going to talk about setting conditions for enduring success and how we're making sure that our efforts inside the Corps are repeatable across not only other units in the Army, but DoD writ large. And finally, we're going to wrap it up with some takeaways. So who is 18th Airborne Corps and why is this important? 18th Airborne Corps is also known as America's Contingency Corps. When you think about current events that are going on in the globe right now, think about what's going on in Europe, in Poland, think about what happened in the Middle East, Afghanistan, and think about natural disasters, such as in Haiti, Katrina, flooding, hurricanes. Whenever there's an event and the nation needs a quick response force, they call on 18th Airborne Corps. 18th Airborne Corps has 4 major divisions. Those are 82nd Airborne Division, 101st Airborne Division, 10th Mountain Division, and 3rd ID. Here we have members from the 101st Airborne Division and 3rd ID. We also have 8 supporting brigades that provide sustainment, transportation, military police support, long-range precision fires, engineer support, signal transport, medical, and military intelligence. So 18th Airborne Corps is a huge organization. It's comprised of approximately 92,000 soldiers, which is 42% of the operational force inside the Army. That's a large organization to try to make any kind of innovation and digital transformation change. When you think about that comparatively to the private sector, you're looking at companies such as 3M, Northrop Grumman, and Shell. And for the public sector, you're looking at Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Treasury, and Department of Agriculture. So whenever you have an organization of this magnitude and this size, to really move the wheel on that, you need a nexus. So that nexus of innovation and transformation is what's called Project Ridgeway. Project Ridgeway was started approximately 2 years ago under then Lieutenant General Kurilla and now General Kurilla, the commander of CENTCOM, as well as senior Army leadership inside the Pentagon. It is now led by Colonel Dan Kearney. So we knew 2 years ago if we wanted to have any kind of lasting and impactful change, we first had to have a cultural shift. We had to have a culture that understood data as a strategic asset and really had to leverage it, embody it, absorb it, and then come up with new ideas to improve the organization. So as I said in the beginning, as warfighters, we're doing our daily grind, we understand the mission, however, we know there's parts of our job that absolutely suck, and there are better ways to do it, right? So when we think about innovation, we think about solving today's problems with today's tech. So having a culture that embodies that really helps us move the ball forward. So we have several events inside our cultural LOE that assist. So there's plenty of articles on the NSIN portal, Dragon's Lair. Dragon's Lair is where soldiers can submit ideas from inside the formation, and they pitch it all the way up to our CG. We bring in partnerships with local schools. We brought in SpaceX. We brought in NASA. We brought in other organizations to really listen to the innovative ideas inside the formation and try to help us come up with solutions. After culture, we knew we had to figure out how to structure our data, how to get our data that we're producing as the warfighter and from all our mission systems, right? All our sensors, all our tanks, all our radars, our guns, our soldiers, unstructured data that's coming in from SITREP reports, everything. We got to figure out how to get it all together, how to get it labeled, tagged, and in a way that we can action that data. Once we have all the data aggregated in a good format, then we have to take the data that we've collected, the data from all the different systems of record, right, and then figure out how to federate that data and really create a data fabric so we can have what's called a single pane of glass, right? So what the single pane of glass will do is enable your commanders on the battlefield to make split-second decisions based on information that's being fed in real time. We don't have that capability right now, so Project Ridgeway and the efforts that were started in 101st Airborne Division, Dragon Cloud, is really getting after that single pane of glass, mission command at the edge. Finally, after we have the culture, we have the data, we're working toward the end of a single pane of glass, we know we have to upskill our people, right? We know that we have to get soldiers who are trained in the modern tech and the modern infrastructure and how to get all of that together. So where we were about 2 years ago is we had a legacy infrastructure where all our servers are on metal stacks and metal racks. We had 0 cloud-trained soldiers. We had limited funding, right? So one of the key takeaways, if you're in a public sector organization right now, you don't need a huge budget to do this, right? I'm not going to talk about how much money we had in the beginning, but it wasn't a lot. However, the stones that we threw in the ocean to make this happen are causing a ripple across the entire Army. Right, so you don't need a huge budget to start this. We had limited funding. We had no clear end state. But what we did have were soldiers who knew there was a better way to accomplish the mission and really the desire to get it done. So kind of fast forward a year, what we have now is a multi-cloud environment from the unclass up to the secret level. We have a bench of trained and motivated soldiers. We have support from program offices. We can deploy mission command as a service. So that's globally available, and Brian McDonald will come up here and talk about that in a second. And then we have senior leader buy-in to make sure that this is repeatable across the Army. So one of the early champions of Project Ridgeway and our efforts inside 18th Airborne Corps is Paul Puckett, who's the director of the Enterprise Cloud Management Agency. So about a month or two ago, Paul kind of gave a talk on ECMA and really the cloud. So if you haven't seen it, I think it's out there. One of his quotes is, one of the foundational benefits of cloud infrastructure is a lead time to experimentation. So that quote right there really speaks to Dragon Cloud and the efforts inside 18th Airborne Corps. So Brian McDonald is going to come up and he's going to talk about Dragon Cloud. This is a cloud environment that was built under 101st and is driven by soldier innovation to really improve the warfighter's capability. Brian.
All right, Brian, thank you. I want to just echo what Scott was saying. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Allow us to come up and kind of share our success and hopefully give you something to take away, to get back to your organization. So Brigadier General Jeff Ray of the Army Network Cross-Functional Team has been quoted saying that we need to get to a position, get to a place where we can stop carrying the network on our backs. And I couldn't agree more. As a server guy in the Army, couldn't agree more. Our servers, traditionally, when the Army goes anywhere, right? We go to the field, to go to a deployment, we go across the street, it doesn't matter. We take our physical data centers with us. So imagine that if you're in your organization, you're going to go do an offsite. A team's going to go do an offsite and uprooting your entire data center and taking it with you. That's what we've done. And I jokingly have said these server stacks, weigh 600 to 800 pounds, but I really don't think I'm too far off there, especially when you start adding in all the extras and stuff that go with it. So to kind of get after that, we had to get into this cloud. We started this project, we want to get into it, so we wanted to start with a proof of concept to get that stakeholder buy-in from our upper management, to prove that we can, and to kind of learn how to do it. So we started with an unclassified version of one of our mission command systems to get into the AWS GovCloud region. It took us several months because, like Brian talked about a minute ago, there's a whole bunch of stuff we didn't have when we started, and one of those is, cloud experts. We didn't have any of that. And I was literally walking by my boss's office one day, and he said, hey, Brian, come here. You're not doing anything important. Go do the cloud stuff. I said, okay, all right. I don't know what cloud is, but we'll figure it out. And then we started. We started training. It was me and Captain John Shoemaker. He was the network guy. I was the server guy. Put us together, and we figured it out. It took us, like I said, several months, and we started demoing it and kind of showing it off to the stakeholders. And the nail in the coffin to get that stakeholder buy-in for us was we were doing a demo, and I had a 3-star general in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, get on his Army-issued computer, his unclassified computer. I gave him a URL, and he hit my cloud resource that I deployed, configured, and maintained from Fort Campbell, Kentucky. and minds were blown across the world. I mean, it was the craziest thing. And then we started, exploring other opportunities. We started trying to connect to organizations over in Europe, and all that buy-in just started, steamrolling really fast. So once we had the buy-in, the funding started flowing a little bit better, and then we started, we decided to get into the AWS secret region with our actual classified versions of our mission command systems. One at a time, we started to move them over, and we really built that globally accessible environment. I had my targeting system at Fort Campbell connected to and sharing, data replicating to a targeting system on-prem over in Germany, and it was real time, no latency, and it was great. So that really started steamrolling, and we're still doing it today. We're adding services now, still building that environment out. So the so what is something that we have to routinely kind of come back to, almost iteratively, to kind of check in and make sure that what we're doing is worth what we're doing, right? And SWaP, size, weight, and power, is a metric that we typically use to kind of assess the viability of an option, right? We're always trying to decrease our size, our weight, and improve our power to make us more agile, more lethal, and a better fighting force. By going to the cloud in this hybrid environment, and I say hybrid because we're always going to have some kind of a hardware piece at the tactical edge, right, for that edge warfighter. But hosting everything else in the cloud, we experienced a 60% improvement in that size, weight, and power profile we had. Last summer, I think it was last summer, we briefed to the Chief of Staff of the Army that when we deploy somewhere, we take an aircraft, we legitimately eliminated 2/3 of an aircraft worth of communication stuff that we didn't have to take anymore by going to the cloud. And that's pallets and pallets of those server cases and all the peripherals, all the accoutrements that go with it. Told you I'd do it. There was a bet I wouldn't work that word in, but I did it. But that's 2/3 of an aircraft that now we can fill with shooters, with bullets, with beams, with Band-Aids, with whatever, right? And that kind of goes towards that total cost of ownership. That's another thing that was really hard for us to kind of wrap our head around in the Army, because typically when we buy something, it's a one lump sum that's going to last me for the next 11-5 years, and that's what I've got, and I'm done. So when we started putting this stuff together and running with it, and we started talking to our money folks, and we said, okay, I spent $3,000 this month. I'm like, $3,000 in a month? They're not used to seeing a monthly bill. That's something new for us too. They're used to buying those 800-pound server stacks for $350,000, and that lasts us for a decade. So kind of getting our head wrapped around that. But with some of the discussions were, I can buy these server stacks and I'm set for a decade. Yeah, but we have to house them, right? We have server rooms, we have data centers, we have buildings that were built, that were built back in 1912 that are housing our data centers, right? HVACs, the electricity, all that stuff, right? All the total cost of ownership stuff that I'm sure everybody here understands. We didn't understand it at first. We had to kind of figure that out. And a use case that really kind of drove that home was not this Christmas, but the Christmas before. In one of those 1912 data centers we had, our HVAC went out over Christmas break. That was fun, right? So the server room got super hot, and we all know how much servers love heat, right? So we had to bring technicians in over Christmas break. Took them about a week to rebuild the infrastructure and get everything running again after the HVAC was fixed. And I said, wouldn't it be great if that was not our responsibility anymore? Wouldn't that be great if I didn't have to worry about that stuff? So, and we just kind of started to find ways to quantify all of those, the typically qualitative factors that we need to think about. And every system can be any system. That was a huge deal for us. So in the Army, we have systems A, B, C, and D, right? Just for conversational speak, all these different systems. Each one is a specific physical box in itself, right? A unit is fielded X number of those boxes, a limited number, right? So let's just say it's a targeting system. They'll get 3 of those at a brigade level. If one of them breaks, they've lost 33% of their capacity and their capability to target stuff, right? By decoupling the hardware and software and virtualizing that software, hosting it in the cloud, now any classified computer, which they'll probably have 100 of, can reach to the cloud and take on the persona of that system and now exponentially add it to their capability set, right? And that was a huge deal for us, especially once we figured out how to decouple everything, which was We don't have enough time for that. That was a lot. So in some of these challenges, and a lot of these, we talked about the culture being a big deal. That, from my perspective, from my opinion, that was probably the hardest fight that we had. That was our biggest challenge, was getting that culture of risk acceptance, risk tolerance to change and adapt and allow us to experiment. A couple Novembers ago, we had this environment all done, all built, and I was ready to test it. We had a month-long field exercise going. I said, okay, we're going to go out and use all this cloud stuff. And I had a whole bunch of commanders that said, nah, I don't want to use it because they were scared. They didn't know, there's no trust in it. This is the first time ever, and nobody wants to fail. Even though we were just at our own home station out in the backyard, nobody was going to die, nobody's going to get fired. They're still terrified to use it. So getting it implemented has been really slow. Innovation in the Army, like Brian was talking about, is still a very new concept for us. We're not used to that. We're very much stuck with, this is the way it's always been. This is the way we've always done things, right? And it's really hard to change that over. And I'll kind of get to the stakeholders in a second, but that innovation being something new has made it a lot harder too. We don't have the training, the people, the resources to kind of go after this. And I sincerely believe that one of the reasons we were so successful at 101st doing what we were doing is that I had a boss, Colonel Lindeman, who really just stuck me in a corner and said, hey, don't touch him, leave him alone, go sit in the corner, play with crayons and do cloud stuff. And I said, got it, coach, put me in, I'm done. But most organizations don't have that, right? They don't have that freedom to kind of take somebody and shelter them and put them off like that. Because innovation is not something we're known for. So we've got to figure that stuff out. We're getting better. High turnover in stakeholders. Also the way we do it in the Army, super smart way of doing things, is we take our leadership and we shuffle them up like every 2 years, right? And that's great for the consistent warfighters because we're trying to, we've got these efforts that our boss says, hey, this is our priority, move out, draw fire, make it happen. Cool. 2 years later, he or she moves out, and the next person comes in, that's not their priority anymore. Now they say, okay, now you go do this thing. So that's really hard for us, and it's at every single level, from a company commander to the 4 stars. Even the whole echelon has changed every couple of years. And right now we're at a place where your extreme upper management, those 3 and 4 stars, love cloud stuff. Right? They're nerds like us. They love it. Down here at the bottom, we love it. It's great. And it's that middle management piece that's still kind of stuck in the older ways. Is always the way we've always done things. We need to get those guys rotated out. But get them out. So that high turnover is really hard to get and maintain that stakeholder buy-in. But what we're trying to do, Brian was kind of talking about, it's not just for 18th Airborne Corps, right? If you look at the Army from like a business perspective, we at 101st and 18th Airborne Corps are trying to make changes for the entire conventional Army, right? What we're doing, it's a cool stone in the ocean thing, I like that too. But what we're trying to do is going to have impacts and effects across the whole Army. And the conventional Army is that sole benefactor. Special operations have been doing stuff like this for a while. I know when I was over there, we were doing a lot of cloud stuff, but they cheat. They just outsource everything. It's not fair. We have to actually do it. But just think about back at your organization. If you take a team of your organization and task them with something that's going to change the entire business process for your organization, that's kind of what we're trying to do. Setting those conditions for continuous integration and continuous delivery. Right now, if a new software came out, it's going to be on a 5 to 7 year fielding plan for a piece of software. Because why not, right? That's how it works. But if we can cloudify, is that a thing? Cloudify? It's a thing, thank you. I love it. We can cloudify everything. Yeah, then we can host all that stuff, and users, the units, could just reach up and grab that content and bring it down. And that kind of goes towards the future of the business processes. And to kind of get after that, I'm going to bring up that handsome young devil right there, Major Bill King. The dog-faced soldier, yeah. Come on up.
Thanks, Brian. Rock of the morning. Wow. I'm telling you what, when I came in to start working with the cloud, I worked with Brian, and that's the only good part of working with the cloud when it first started out, because it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun working with these guys, and it was a challenge. 3ID came into the cloud, and we didn't do so willingly. We did more out of necessity. The United States Army replaced our Common Operation Picture, our command and control system, from a legacy system that had been program of record since 2006 to the system we have now. There were some interoperability issues. Commanders had a limited visibility with the old system to the new system. There was a fielding cycle that was limited in its fielding out. 3ID was not scheduled to get theirs for about 2 years out. We had to figure out some way. The Corps commander had mandated that he wanted homogeneity across the Corps. We had to figure out some way to deliver that within our division. So we had seen the work that had been done by the 101st. We wanted to get into that kind of piece. We wanted to do what they did, but doing it in the secret region. We wanted to be able to do it not just through a proof of concept, but actually have it delivered in production in a real warfighter scenario. In order to do that, we had to get smart in the cloud, and we had to get smart in a hurry. I reached out to Brian Masters, reached out to him and said, hey, we got to get smart in cloud. He said, well, the first thing I can tell you to do is I got a summit up in DC in September. And I sat in a hall just like this one. Actually, it was about 3 doors down. We listened to the Navy talking about some stuff they did with a snowball and COVID and stuff like that. Pretty good brief, but the one that really mattered was about large-scale data migration that was done by a gentleman called, his name was Chris Rock. He was a couple doors over, and he talked to us about this great group of people. Their names were ProServe, group of people I'd never heard of, didn't really know what they do, but he said they do some meetings, they come talk to you. They have 2 things that are important. One was an envisioning workshop. The other one is a migration readiness assessment. I didn't know what those kind of things were, but I said, if that's what we got to do, we'll do it. So we reached out, we scheduled those, we went through the AWS guys, they came out, we were like, yeah, we know what we want, here's what we want. They said, whoa, slow down. We got a process. Amazon has a way, let us do it our way. We're like, we're the Army, we know what we're doing, do it our way. We got MDMP. We got a thing, trust us, we've been doing this for a little while, since 1776, we know what we're doing. They said, I know, but we know cloud, so do it our way. So we went their way, and it turned out they did really know what they were doing, and they knew what they were doing a lot. They adjusted our view of how the cloud was going to support the division. They adjusted it a lot. And that actually helped us nest our priorities, and they reduced the workloads we were going to have to do to actually move to the cloud. That envisioning workshop changed our focus, and it helped us do that migration. They also helped us develop a message to our leadership, so we got buy-in from our deputy commanding general, and he was basically our biggest champion to the rest of the staff. And he helped us get over the hurdle, and he drove the entire division, and he got them behind us. As we went down the journey, and we started the process, and we started the migration readiness assessment, and we started going down that journey even further, we discovered a few more opportunities, big opportunities that we never even thought going to the cloud would help us. We realized that we were going to be able to reduce our man-hour time. We realized that we were going to be able to maintain our servers from a central position within our unit hub node, and we can maintain all those servers from a central position on a limited timeline, so that we did not have to spend as much time trying to maintain our STIG compliancy, our IAVA patching, and it even reduced the time that our C&D sections were going to have to do for monitoring and logging all of our servers. We also looked at how we could get support globally. If we were deployed, if we were forward, and we had a catastrophic failure, and catastrophic failure in the Army is a pretty serious catastrophic failure. We're at near peer, if you look at it right now, we're facing near peer adversaries. Catastrophic failure is pretty catastrophic. If we're in the cloud, we can recover from a catastrophic failure. We can reach out to the Brian McDonalds of the world and have them reach out and help us rebuild our architecture. We can help them reestablish comms, even if our techs that are forward can't help us. Those are capabilities that we may not have if we're on a current server structure that's in the CP in the main if our main's not there. We have the capability to continue the fight if it's in the cloud where our server stacks are in the secret region of GovCloud. We also looked at it from the standpoint of being able to replicate our builds, being able to capture our solutions and instantaneously be able to share them across the entire core. If 3ID finds the solution to being able to do a UEFI Server 19 build that we can push out to every single division within the core within an hour. And every single division in the core can upload those into every one of their servers by the end of the day. If we can find a patch for any C&D vulnerability, we can push it through GovCloud Secret, and every single person can have it up and running, spun up within 15 to 30 minutes. If we're all in the same cloud, we're all in the same VPC, we can instantaneously push any solution, anything that we have, instantaneously between the 101st, 18th Airborne Corps, and the 101st right now. We have that capability. These are things that we couldn't do if we're not in the cloud. These are the things that we were trying to get to. But there's one piece left that we needed to do, and 3ID looked at it as we had to set the conditions for an enduring success, and to do that, we had to create a repeatable process that we could push out to other units that were going to be coming to AWS and doing what we did. We had to codify our POC list. Those POC lists were going to have to include AWS, ECMA, Sea Army, Project Ridgeway, PEO C3T, ForceCom, numerous PMs, as well as the timelines to get things turned around. How long it was going to take you and what you were going to have to send to them, how long it was going to take to get back to you. We had to get all that information together because, trust me, every organization works a little differently. You need to talk to the right person at the right time to get the right document back to you. We were trying to gather that information because when we started, we were trying to find it out, and we needed to help other people know what that was. We also did the process and we try to develop the expectations for every step of the process. When you go to the cloud in GovCloud Secret, it's a process. It's a little different than whenever you try and do normal GovCloud. There's different expectations whenever you try to go through the ICCB process. When you try to go from DevOps to sandbox to production, when you deal with the ATO process or an IATT, when you're dealing with the POAMs, when you're dealing with those POAMs and you have to deal with the PMs to get the POAMs for those things, when you're looking at all of the things as far as the PMs, POAMs for the TSI stacks, if you're looking for the mission command systems, you have to know where to go and you got to know where to ask. You have to know what organizations to look at when you look at going through the RMF process, because you need to be able to look at ECMA. ECMA is the landing zone in GovCloud Secret, and you have to know how to do your network planning to go through them to get into what you're building there. 3ID wanted to try and build the playbook so that everybody else can come the way we did it. What I looked at was 18th Airborne Corps had the vision of what we wanted to build. They looked at, this is where we want to try and go. 101st came in like pathfinders. They wanted to clear the landing zone. This is where we're going to land. Here, we're going to figure out how to build it when we get there. 3ID came in and we wanted to try and build the playbook. If you're trying to go to where the 101st build the landing zone, we're going to tell you how to get there and the best way once you get there to do it the fastest. 101st built their environment, took them 2 months to build some of those servers. They handed it to us, we could spin it up in 10 minutes. What we want to try and do is get it to somebody else where they can spin it up in under 5, under 2. So every time we want to try and get somebody else to be able to do it. In the end, we want the next unit to build upon what we do. We want them to improve on our work. And then we want the process to keep moving forward as they give it to that unit to do better than they did. So that's our ultimate goal in this entire process and what we've done. Thank you.
All right, we're going to wrap this up. We're over a little bit, and I appreciate everyone sticking around. So kind of some of the key takeaways from the talk, and I really want to focus it on this right here, guys. It's about the team. So the gentleman up here on stage with me, you know, it's the team that built this. It's a partnership with AWS. It's a partnership with ECMA. It's a partnership with LSIs across the board, right? Whenever we started this, I was on a phone call with, I'll just go ahead, Paul Puckett. And I was talking with him, and I was like, hey, we want to do this. We want to leverage the cloud. We want to leverage ECMA. And he's like, and if any of you guys have had a conversation with Paul, you can understand where this one's going, all right? He's like, look, I don't know if you're the A squad. I don't know if you're the B squad. He said a different word. He's like, crap, you might be the D squad. So the D squad kind of stuck with us, right? So there's a lot of pride in what we built in 18th Airborne Corps, right? And then the fact that the Army it has now shifted the way the Army's looking at mission command and data as a strategic asset really kind of makes us proud. And then what we hope that you got from this talk is if you're in an organization and you have an idea, you have a concept, find a senior leader like Paul Puckett that did it for us. That will be your champion. And he'll tell you he was our cheerleader. And really make sure that we have the operating space to experiment. So with that, I think that kind of wraps up our talk. And we'll stand by for questions and answers.
Yes, thank you so much to our presenters.